All right, let's go into the next round. We're gonna have a conversation, and I would like to ask for your attention and also introduce very quickly the two speakers of the next conversation. Eleonora Brizi, she's a curator from Italy, but a world traveler, we could say. I never know where you're based. She also wrote a few books on blockchain art, especially the Pepe book, the rarest book. Then we have Patrick Tresset, almost a legend in the space. Pioneer in robotic art. He was, his artworks have been shown in many museums worldwide. So it's a great honor to have you here. And I give the microphone to you.
Thank you, Georg. Thank you for having us and for organizing this again. Okay, I think that we can start with the video. Hello, everyone. Hi, Patrick. I'm very happy to be here with you, to be here with this artist who, as Georg was mentioning, has been pioneering robotic systems used to create art, also creating bridges between really like emotion and computation and authorship and autonomy. And it's really a great pleasure to have you here. We have been knowing each other for a long time, didn't have the chance to really talk, but at a certain point you really also started to appear in our little bubble, which was this blockchain art conferences. And yesterday I had my experience, but we'll talk about it later. Patrick has an installation at the Automata booth that you should all check out. But let's start talking a little bit. We thought that instead of going through, the biography and really like temporality of this artist practice, we will do it through a topic which actually has been already discussed quite deeply in the previous panel, which is autonomy. But yes, the first question will be just for, to contextualize and to let us understand. You used to be a painter, and at a certain point, you felt that it was not possible for you to be a painter anymore, and you created what you have been working with since many, many years. And so how did this happen, and how are you dealing with these robotic systems that you created?
Yes, thank you, Eleonora. I was a painter for about 10 years, and at the end of last century, or at the beginning of this one, It's nice to be able to say that. I lost my, for various reasons, I lost my spontaneity. And then in my painting, I couldn't stand to see myself, to see my hand in the painting, so in the drawings. And because I had a computer when I was very young, I had the intuition I could do something using computers and using the computers to be able to still be an artist and to still be able to do drawing. And so the idea was to place a distance. So, and I first worked with systems, so the generative systems that would produce drawing. And then 10 years after, I started to work with robotics. And then I started to see the robots as agents. Because they have a body, it's easier to perceive them as having an autonomy. It's more complicated for a computational system to seem to be autonomous. But if you have a body, then it looks autonomous. So, and it really enabled me to explore the drawing practice with this distance, because I don't touch the pen, but because I do all the coding, I am still inside the system. So there is this kind of back off and force of control, autonomy, etc., etc.
So 2 questions. The first one will be, so by creating these systems, what is the difference between being automated and being autonomous, but related to your work? Because again, we have talked about, I mean, autonomy was discussed in the previous panel, and as So Wen said, we could sit here for 4 hours discussing and trying to find a definition, an absolute definition about it. But in the end, it needs to be contextualized. At least it is what we can do for now. And also because, autonomy maybe just exists in contextualization and not in an absolute way. So in these extensions that you created, in these robotic systems, what is the difference between creating automated systems or autonomous systems, if they are autonomous, and how much autonomous they are?
I mean, after it's a question of space of autonomy, it depends. So yeah, automated in a certain way in my mind, it means that it doesn't react to things. So it just goes through a process, through a thing. And autonomous, they react independently to some output, but then they follow a program or a system, whatever the system is. So the level of autonomy is only in this time, in this space. Because if you've programmed it before, it's not totally autonomous because you have taken those decisions. I mean, so those systems are autonomous when you start them. They react to what they see by doing gestures. They follow certain strategies that is similar to the one I was using when I was a painter. But it is kind of autonomous. It is autonomous. And what is more important is that they are perceived as being autonomous and as having an intention. Because as an artist, in a certain way, it doesn't matter if it's true. Because when you go to the theater, the people on stage are actors, and they're not like, if it's a murderer on stage, it's not a killer and it's not somebody dead. And it's the same thing with the system I do. They have to be appeared like that, but when people step back, they have to know that there is a part of theater, and it's not necessarily true. It's art, it's not technological demonstration.
And the second question was then how much are you involved and how much are you removed? And also when you created this, when you felt that you didn't have the ability of being a painter anymore, and you wanted to do it through these robotic systems, what was and what still is the intention of you to remove yourself from the work, or actually being even more inside the work? What is your engagement with the work?
Well, there are a lot of contradictions in my practice. No, there is a distance, because I can't stand even now to do something. I do also paintings with machines, and at some point it's very tempting to take the brush and do a brush strokes in another position, because I think it's going to be better. I put the brush stroke and I can't stand it, and it's like the painting is destroyed. So I still have the same problem, and it's really I use those systems also as actors, so in those performances. They act for me, but I still decide of everything because I have this thing with control. So it's really conflictual and contradictory, but it's how it works. But yeah, even if they are totally free, between quotes, I'm totally in control too.
You're totally in control. So it never happened.
Kind of.
Did it happen that the robots during the performance like created or had some reactions or did some actions that you weren't expecting, like to your surprise?
Yeah. When I said totally in control, it's not exactly the case. It's delimited. I fix the limit. But yeah, no, that's the thing. It's and so I've been doing it. I'm not always there when I exhibit a robot because I have some all over the world. But here it's nice because I've been there, and I always take a lot of pleasure, even after 10 years of 15 years of showing this installation. And when I look at the drawing developing, I still don't know what. It's still a surprise. Of course, I know what it is, but I never know if it's going to be a good drawing or bad drawing. And in the end, it's always a surprise. And the first time it did an interesting drawing, I was shocked. So there is still, I mean, the element of surprise is very important. And I designed the system to be a bit unstable and unpredictable. Because if you do something that is predictable, the only way to do it is to do something average in certain ways, and it can't be very interesting. So, but if you do that, sometimes it's very bad too. So it's a kind of risk.
And I mean, you already just talked about it, but like how in the end, so for instance, yesterday when I had my portrait made by your installation, at your installation, you know, the robot signed the artwork. So how do you balance this like autonomy with authorship? Because authorship is also very important when you give agency to a certain system. Like how do you balance your relationship with authorship?
Oh, I have no doubt that I am the author. There's no question because I write all the code, and even there are machines. I mean, that's what I said about theater. They are perceived differently, but at the end of the day, they're only machines. Even the LLMs and all that, it's still computational systems. After you give the impression to the audience that there are certain things, but if you want the thing for the drawing, so the signature, it's theatrical. It's because it gives this impression that they are author, and also people find it funny that the robot signs, and the way they sign, I do it on purpose so that it's interesting. The installation, if you come to see it, it is all theatrical. It is an artwork, so it's all theatrical. Like the movements, the little way they move, everything. Like I tuned the robots differently, so they are perceived in different manner. But it's all staged in a certain way. Except that when they draw, they really draw and they really react to reality. But otherwise, everything, the way the drawing develops, all that is, yeah, it's design.
Yeah, the behavior of the three robots creating the portraits in the installation in the digital art mile is very different. Even me as a like sitting there and being portraited, I realized like how different the behavior was. The central robot was behaving very much more angrily, even in the way and in the speed that the cameras are looking at you and the way that they draw. It seemed to be like very different, and then you can see it obviously in the result of the artwork. But also it's very interesting because you create what could be called like this collective, like there is a collectivity of agents creating together. So how does it work? How do you program that, and what does it mean to be like autonomous agents in collectivity in a performance like this?
Yes, so this idea of so it is again theatricality, and there is this thing. So I started to use multiple robots for an installation. So the first time was 2012, I was invited to have a show just next to Tape Modern, and we thought, oh yeah, instead of having one robot drawing a person, why we don't have 3? At the time, it was 5. And as soon, and I didn't know that, you have one robot like that draws, etc. In a stone way, it's a unique thing. It's a monster. If you have multiple ones, it becomes a member of a species. And then their behavior, you see more their individual behaviors because they become part of the species and they have an identity. They become to have an identity. And after, robots are like puppets. So we are very good at decoding motion because we have to see, to detect if it's going to be against us or if we can, And with little movement, you can give different characters to the robot. So if they are a bit fast, oh, it's a bit mad, it's a bit nervous. One is very soft, and then things. And because of the way I designed the software, so I designed the system for the drawings to be true to the robot. So it's a system, and then it's the characteristics of the robots that influence the style. So if you have a nervous robot, or if, what did you say, grumpy? Nervous? No. Angry. And all those are, they are based on my NBA in VR. So yeah, I do get like that in the morning. I'm more in the middle one actually. So yeah, if the robot appears nervous, or it is really nervous, you have the arm going fast, then because the drawing is true to the robot, because of the way I designed the system, then the drawing looks nervous, a bit mad, like you can identify which robot has done the thing. It's designed like that. And even if you change the camera, the drawing styles change. It's really, the style is really emergent from the characteristics.
So you said that they're also based like on your behavior. Like how do you train the robots?
Oh, those ones. Those versions don't have machine learning because they are based on prototypes from 2010. So there was no machine learning was not possible to use in embodied systems. So it uses AI theories from before. And so there are reactive systems that react to reality with some control loops and feedback loops. It's very simple things, but that enable the emergence of complex behavior. So it's that, and if you want to use also simulations of the cells that are in the early visual cortex, so in the same thing as deep learning, but computed instead of acquired, I can't remember what was your question.
And do you have? Did you also train? No, I'll ask you like how you train the robots.
Oh.
Did you also train some other systems on machine learning, like then in the how? So how did this practice evolve, like since the beginning until now? Before talking about what you're working on right now, let's stay on the robotic. Yeah. How did it evolve the?
Yeah, so for a long time, there is a constraint is that I do a lot of exhibitions and some with many robots. So there is a cost constraint, so I can't have GPUs in all my things. And I am a bit about computational waste. So I think that the minimum computation should be used for the application. So if something works with no machine learning, it has to be used, and a lot of things work like that because you can control it better. Not necessarily, anyway. So I've worked on those systems that are reactive systems because, again, I'm interested in theatricality, so the technology doesn't have much importance. I've worked on a system with machine learning in my installations where, for example, you have the system is based on foreignness. So the robot is trained at the beginning with dummy heads. So only dummy heads, so it doesn't know human beings. We all look the same. And progressively during the exhibition, the robot is trained with the sitters of the day. So progressively the robot learns about the thing. But those things are a bit, yeah, it's interesting, but it's to use machine learning. So I've integrated that, but most of the time I don't. They are very simple systems. It's more the artistic side, how I stage the things, the stories I tell, etc. Because I'm not interested in in talking, but it has been said before, the subject is not a technology. I mean, it's humanness, so it's about telling stories about humanness rather than technology. So.
Of course, and because we have been talking about drawings like until now, but you also do paintings, and so is all this medium like, do you all express like yourself and your art in the same way, or you have a favorite one? Because you used to be a painter, but then you also ended up in like your practice having a lot of drawing performances. Why and how? Where is your interest like in the actual like art medium?
So originally, even if I was a painter, I always had a close link with the drawing because of its directness, its expressiveness, and things like that. There is an honesty and a spontaneity in drawing, so that was the starting point. But painting is very different; it's constructed. But nowadays, so it's a mixture. I like the theatricality, so I'm like a stage director or a thing, and. Yeah, the painting is the same thing, it's just different mediums, but I kind of explore the same thing. And after, what is interesting to me is a different rhythm. An installation can take 2 years to develop. Paintings, I can set it also in 1 month. I make 10 paintings. The digital work, I can make a full series in 1 week. You know, it is kind of different rhythms, but I explore the same thing, which is, you know, the depiction of human existence or experience, and, you know, kind of traditional themes in art.
And do you think more of collaboration with your robots, or more of your absolute creation? Like you control like you create these boxes, obviously, where they move, so it's your work, or somehow there is space for real collaboration? Also, have you ever thought about actually collaborating physically with the robots in your performances?
Yeah, recently with the latest work, I don't like the word collaboration. I don't like it, but it's a personal thing. I have this thing, and maybe you realize that you have your own definition of the word, and other people using it. I say, yeah, I don't agree, and then it's because you have your own definition of the word. And collaboration, I really have difficulties because it would mean awareness on the other side in my mind, and that I have problem. But no, I recently. Oh no, I did a few years back one where I would start a drawing and then the robot would continue and finish it. But I couldn't find a way to transform that into an art installation. In my mind, it was like a technological demonstration. Oh, I didn't, because there are multiple stages in my work. I love research, and I spend a huge amount of time, most of my time during research, but most of it is not in the artworks. It doesn't, it's just because I love it. I just like searching and finding stuff, but it's almost disconnected to the art practice. Yeah.
And so, as it was mentioned before, we really are in this new era of autonomous agents and obviously generative AI. So all these almost new tools to be used in the creation of art. And so for someone like you, coming from like reactive systems, as you said, like when you started when machine learning wasn't even existing, and then also going through machine learning, but like, what is your relationship to this, like for instance, like the world of generative AI, like for your practice? Do you see, before talking about your current work, but like as an artist, is it something that you felt could really contribute to like explore your practice more somehow, or it is something very different and disconnected? Is it something which is very hype, or a tool that can actually like just like really, as we said, like like it's not about tech demos, but like, do these technologies you think could serve your concepts?
Yeah. I mean, I use anything. I mean, anything that I find I can look into, and I have this thing is that I need to master the thing. I need to be able to to get to control it, to master it, and then I can use it. But because I like searching, the beauty of the system is that you can really explore, and now they're so vast that you can go in places where nobody has been before. It seems a bit silly, but it's that. So like I've used generative systems to, like I did a series of digital work with flowers. A lot of people do flowers, but that, and then I use a generative system to generate the seed. After I use other processes on top. But yeah, I use any kind of new technologies. I mean, especially with the LLMs, where it's fascinating, those type of agents.
So you mentioned flowers, and obviously your body of works doesn't only, I mean, the topic isn't always a human figure and humans, but a big part of the artistic work is around humans, not only as like humanity, but even like as a body, as a physical presence. Why is that, and why like someone so interested in creating art which is about humans is doing it with robots? This is extremely interesting. In fact, have you been learning about being human more through the robots? And why did this interest start at the beginning, like about human figures?
That's very interesting. No, but it can be maybe too personal. No, it might be very personal. I haven't thought about it.
But it's a good if it's personal.
Yeah. No, but there is this thing that at the beginning they were like acting instead of me, so some form of self-portrait and things. So there is always that. Like when I worked on the motion, on the movement of the robot, I imagined myself doing the motions and things like that. So there was that, and also they were there at the beginning to replace my loss of spontaneity. So there is a strong link, but those are stories in a certain way. In reality, for me, they are machines. But it's true that conceptually and physically, there is a strong link between the machine and me, but that's normal. But regarding the subject, but it's a normal subject for artists, because I'm not interested in making commentaries about social aspects or things. So in some pieces, I speak about humanness and conformisms or things like that, but I prefer to look at humanity as a whole. And for me, all the problems or all the beautiful things come from the fact that we are human, like the problems with AI or blah, blah, blah. It's not a problem of well, we've seen it before in the previous talks. The tools, the technology is neutral, so it's not at all the thing. So I prefer to speak about different aspect of humanness. And if I go back to the flowers, it's not that much about the flower, it's about the experience of observing a flower. And there is a lot of my work on the digital side, where it is, for example, about the experience of looking out of a window train, of the train or window during the journey, looking at people walking by. It's about this experience of being human. And a lot of my work is about that. The fact that I use technology is just because it's what I'm good at. I'm fluent with it, I'm fluent with a robot, I can do it, and it's more natural for me than painting. I was not very good at doing paintings by hand, so it just happens to be the medium.
What are you working on right now, and what is your next project?
How long do I have left?
Very little.
How much?
1 minute?
1 minute before the video? Oh, that's okay. So I've been working on this thing. I'm part of this project called the EACVA between Goldsmiths College and Constance. And I got this, and the project I submitted, there was a selection. I said, oh yeah, I've been doing repetitive things and I want to put myself back into the drawing because somebody told me, oh, there is an absent. And so I proposed this project of actually collaborating with a robot, a bit like Sugwen does all the time, but in a different way. I imagine that a sketch is like a journey, an adventure. But as a human being, you end up doing the same thing over and over again. So if you have a robot pulling you in one direction, maybe you will find some unexpected things. And so I started to work first doing the same thing as I always do, observational drawing, and you know, faces, objects, and things. And I was a bit bored with that. And I think I saw the video of people looking at my installation. I thought, oh, I really look like it. I really need to get into this state when I'm in the drawing. And then I started to remember as a child with narrative drawings where you imagine story with somebody else and things. And then I tried to do that. And I worked with LLM and embodied agents in the robot. So the robot is controlled by an LLM, and it's the exploration of storytelling with one of those systems. But it is a work in, I haven't really shown it that much. I've only showed little snippets without giving too much away, and it's going to be the same here. I'm just giving you some clues. But I'm having a lot of fun with it. So this time, I'm not going to draw on the paper. I'm just going to give you artistic directions and sometimes feedback. And so you can start the drawing, start how you want, for it to be the beginning of a story. Nice tree, but you could add more branches, I think. Oh, yes, that's very nice. Okay, now you can draw another element to act in your story, to be an actor of the story you are imagining. So you could make the beak far bigger and add an eye too. Oh yeah, very nice like that. Okay, so now what is the next character in your story? Oh, very good. Perhaps you should put some clothes on the stick figure. Very, very nice. It's really the beginning. It's really the beginning of a story.
I'm glad you think so. It feels like a story beginning.
Yeah, excellent work. Thank you so much. It's really good.
You are too kind. Thank you so much. It was truly a pleasure working with you as the artistic director of this little story.
Yeah, so yeah, I've cut a lot of things, but there's a lot of conversation. Sometimes I give advice, she doesn't follow them. Very politely, she doesn't say no, she finds a way. And sometimes she finds other solutions, like the depiction of time. So the story here is, so you have the... Oh. No, please continue. If you want to know more, I'll tell you. Yeah, okay, I'll finish. So the story, yeah, we can't. Sorry, I thought I had more time to explain. But the story you've seen is you see the character is going to point at the bird, and then the bird flies off, loses a feather, and the character catches the flower and puts it on its hat. And beautiful. And the way it represents time is fascinating because instead of making the character move, it just stretches the arm like that. Okay. Yeah, you can go. Thank you for your attention.